This recording is on Chapter 7. We're going to do 5 videos. One is going to be discussing Objective 1. The next one will be Objective 2. The next one, Objective 3. The next one, Objective 4. And finally, Objective 5. All right, so let's get going. The title of this chapter is Short Workplace Messages and Digital Media. And here's just like a blue information diagram. It's just familiarizing you with Twitter and how Twitter has become from just a fad to new communication channel for business. That's what it's called. And it's interesting in that it discusses some of the larger airlines that are currently using Twitter. JetBlue, Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, and United. It continues to say JetBlue, United, Southwest, and others have appointed tweet watchers who troubleshoots air travelers' problems, and may tweet right back when gripes are posted. Additionally, American, Alaska, Air New Zealand, and the Virgin Group also tweet actively. Let's see, Zappos, whose CEO, Tony Hsieh, is a Twitter powerhouse with 2.48 million followers. So tweets and Twitter are really becoming more of the business type revolution. And it says it's another communication channel allowing businesses to reach customers, troubleshoot customer problems, and promote their brands. So let's look at learning objective number 1. Understanding email and the professional standards for its usage, structure, and format in the digital workplace. Preparing digital age email messages and memos. So we know that the web keeps updating themselves, and it says here that the latest version is Web 2.0. And users are empowered active participants who create content, review products, edit, and share information. Messages are shorter and more frequent, and response time is much speedier. That's obvious because Twitter, you only have 140 characters. Social media networks such as Twitter have transformed communication from one-on-one conversations to one-to-many transmissions. And that there's a new phrase called citizen journalists, and they have the power to create and distribute miniature news programs to multitudes on the fly. So let's go on and see what else this objective has for us. Okay, so in the workplace, the devices, the technology is changing. There's new devices and technologies are transforming the way we exchange information and conduct business. And so so they're trying to talk about how software applications are changing because of the cloud. It's called cloud computing. And regular non-business types have access to their own cloud. Businesses also have access to cloud computing. And something you may have noticed that desktop computers are changing. They're being replaced with ever smaller laptops, smartphones, tablets, and other compact, more powerful mobile devices. It's called the Virtual Private Networks, VPN. Offers secure access to an organization's information from any location in the world. And business people are becoming aware that because of electronics, that they're connected and more or less on the job 24/7. So this chapter explores short forms of workplace communication, beginning with email, and it says which everyone loves to hate, and memos, which are disappearing. Moving on to newer media, we're going to talk about instant messaging, text messaging, corporate blogs, podcasts, wikis, and social networking sites. Email, love it or hate it, but it's not going away. Critics saying that email is outdated and inefficient, but email has taken the place of the previous version of tracking things, which is the paper trail. And Dr. Monica Seeley, author of Brilliant Email, says, but email will remain a bedrock of businesses for some time to come. Typical business people spend at least 2 hours a day, perhaps more, writing and replying to email. And people complain about email because it showed that a recent study of 1,800 global knowledge workers, 40% confessed that they had received emails that made no sense whatsoever. A Wall Street article reported that many business schools are ramping up their writing programs or hiring coaches because of complaints about their graduate skills. Adding to the complaints, Chris Carlson, who is a recruiting officer at the consulting firm of Bose, Allen, Hamilton, said that new MBA graduates exchange more than 200 emails a day, and some of them read like text messages, which means the texting shortcuts and the abbreviations and not full sentences. It needs, especially if you're in business, that the emails need to read like emails, because look at this last comment. They're not even incomplete sentences. And when you go into the book, you need to read this about blind carbon copies. So it continues that in addition to complaints about confusing and poorly written emails, many people are overwhelmed with too many messages. Some of them are unnecessary, partly because people use reply all, and that sends it back to everyone on the to list, irritating those who have to plow through dozens of messages that barely relate to them. Still, other email senders fail to recognize how dangerous email can be. After deletion, email files still leave trails on servers within and outside organizations. Messages are often backed up on servers, making them traceable and recoverable by forensic experts. So, in other words, anything you delete more than likely is never really deleted. You may have to dig for it a little bit, but it's still there. Long forgotten messages may turn up in court cases as damaging evidence. And at the last, it says email has many advantages and remains a prime communication channel. So, knowing when email is appropriate. And on the right, it says email is appropriate for short, informal messages that request information and respond to inquiries. It's especially effective for messages to multiple receivers and messages that must be archived, which is the old way of saying saved. And email is also appropriate as a cover document when sending longer attachments. And then about halfway down, it says one expert gives us wise advice. Sometimes it's better to get off the computer and make a phone call. If emails are getting too complicated, if the tone is degenerating, if they're just not getting the job done, call or walk over to that colleague. Managers and employees echo this advice, as revealed in recent research. They're adamant about using face-to-face contact rather than email for critical work situations such as human resources, annual reviews, disciplines, and promotions. So things that are more sensitive in nature, you probably don't want to put on an email. You would want to actually talk to someone face-to-face. So there is a way to do professional emails. And the first part of it is drafting a compelling subject line. And your text goes on to say that it is important to make them to want to read your email. Don't add help, important, or meeting. Summarize the purpose of a message clearly and make the receiver want to open the email. Remember, in some instances, the subject line can be the entire message. Adjust the subject line if the topic changes. Include a greeting to help receivers see the beginning of a message to where they actually know it's starting, and to help them recognize that they are the primary or secondary receiver. Include a greeting, such as "Hi, Julie," and then "Good morning, Julie. Greetings, Julie. For more formal messages to outsiders, include an honorific or last name. Dear Mrs. Stevens, just like if it was a regular letter. Organize the body for readability and tone. In the revision phrase, ask yourself, how could you make your message more readable? Did you start directly? Did you group similar topics together? Could some information be presented with bulleted or numbered lists? Could you add side headings? Get rid of wordiness, and we've been talking about being concise, but don't sacrifice clarity. To convey the best tone, read the message aloud. Basically, if you don't like the way it sounds, it probably isn't sounding right. And then close effectively. At the end of your message, include an action statement with due dates and requests. If you don't give somebody a due date, they won't know when you need it back. Although complimentary closes are unnecessary, you might include a friendly closing such as many thanks or warm regards. Do include your name because messages without names become confusing. And for most messages, full contact information in a signature block is very good. Now you have to understand how to control your inbox. Business communicators love to complain about email, and some young people even deny its existence. I don't know why. Email writing is business writing. We're not talking about the writing to your friends, but when you're talking about when you're doing emails at work, that is business writing. And instead of letting your inbox consume your time, crimp your productivity, control it by observing some time management strategies. The most important strategy is checking your email at set times, such as first thing in the morning, after lunch, or 4 p.m. To avoid being distracted, turn off your audio and visual alerts. And it says no fair peeking at what's alerting you. If mornings are your best working times, check your email later in the day and let your boss and colleagues know your schedule. Another excellent time saver is a 2-minute rule. If you can read and respond to a message within 2 minutes, then take care of it immediately. Messages require more time, add them to your to-do list and schedule them on your calendar, and send the person that sends you the email a note that tells when they can expect a response from you. Replying efficiently with down editing. When answering an email, a neat skill is to develop is down editing. This involves inserting your responses to parts of the incoming message. This is a new phrase. After a courteous opening, your reply message will include only the parts of the incoming message to which you are responding. Delete the sender's message header, signature, and all the unnecessary parts. Then your responses can be identified with your initials. Another efficient trick is to use a different color for your down edits. It takes a little practice to develop this skill. Down edited reply reduces confusion. Figure 7.2 shows a number of additional best practices for managing your email. So here's the formatting of an email message that makes it a request: pre-writing, drafting, and revising. So this is something like the 3x3 that we talked about earlier in the text. So here is an example. This is to Elizabeth Summer. Here's her email address. From Aiden, here's her email address. And here's the subject line. You go into good morning, there's your greeting. Starts off with a question, kind of gets them going. Then explains what's going on. Here are some questions to consider. And they have 6 questions, and they use bullets instead of just keeping it in a paragraph. If it was in a paragraph, some of these questions may get lost. And then please give these careful thought. And then here for the management meeting, and here is the deadline date. And then here is the contact information. Best practices for email is listed here by getting started. Don't write if another channel might work better. Send only content you want published. And then write your compelling subject lines. Replying, scan all emails, especially those from the same person. Scan doesn't mean like the scanning machine, it means just looking them over. Answer within 24 hours or say when you will. Change the subject line if you need to. Practice down editing, only include parts from the incoming email to which you're responding. Use heading and lists. Email etiquette, obtain approval before forwarding. In other words, don't do a forward reply to all. Soften the tone by including a friendly opening and closing. Resist humor and sarcasm because sometimes it doesn't come across as humor or sarcasm. Avoid writing in all caps because it's like it's shouting. End with due dates, next steps to be taken. Add your full contact information. Edit your text for readability. Proofread for typos, and then double check before hitting send. Now, interoffice memos are interesting memos. They're not to customers. They're not to official entities outside of the business. In addition to email, you should be familiar with another workplace document type, interoffice memorandum. Email has largely replaced memos. You can still be called on to use a memo format. Memos are necessary for internal messages that are too long for email, require a permanent record, demand formality, or inform employees who may not have access to email. So not every employee in the company may have email. Those workers on the loading dock or packing trucks or whatever your business does probably doesn't have a corporate email. Within organizations, memos deliver changes in procedures, official instructions, and reports. It's necessary for complex internal messages that are too long. Memos seem to function better as permanent records, and it goes on to say emails may also change your origination date whenever the file is accessed. When preparing attachments, make sure they carry sufficient identifying information because the cover message may be separate from the attachment. Similarities between memos and emails. Emails and memos both have action information, dates, or deadlines, summary of the message, or a closing thought. An effective email closing, memo or email closing, please submit your report to me by June 15th so that we can view your data before our July planning session. You do not need closed messages to coworkers with goodwill statements, such as those are found in letters to customers or clients. Closings can show gratitude or encourage feedback with remarks such as sincerely appreciate your help. How would you like to proceed? Maybe let me know if I can be of further assistance. Avoid closing with please let me know if I can be of further assistance. And here's just a summary of what we've talked about, which is professional email. Here's your subject line, the opening, the body, the closing. This just kind of summarizes it real nice for you. Supporting a memo requires a request. 1 inch from the top. Now, if you have a standard Word document, it's automatically 1 inch because Word has documents are set up for 1 inch margins. Hollywood Audience Services, 2 blank lines. It's either 2 single space or 1 double space. So you go from memorandum down to date. Again, 2 blank lines. It's either 2 single space or 1 double. 1 blank line between here and here, a blank line between here and here, blank line between here and here, and then 1 to 2 back here. Same premise as up here. It tells you in blue provides writer's initials after printed name and title. This aligns all heading words with these following the subject. Users ragged line endings, not justified margins. Leave side margins of 1 to 1 1/4 inches. Here's your list, and here's your bullets. And omits a closing and signature. Then it goes on to explain tips for formatting memos as a whole. Remember, this is a memo that responds to a request for something. And in this memo, it's thoughts to improve their website. And so this is the end of this video. We'll be starting up the next one for the lesson objective number 2.